It is the tradition in February to explore the topic of love. While our theme is on the wings of love, it's the wings of the love of the divine we are going to talk about. Each week this month, we will look at different aspects of the L-O-V-E of the divine as we spread our wings and fly into L, living in light and laughter this week. O, omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience next week. V, vision and vitality for the third week. And finally, enlightened enthusiasm. Today, we're going to be living in light and laughter. So, a guy from Arizona died and was sent to hell. The devil put him to work breaking up rocks with a sledgehammer. To make it worse, he cranked up the temperature and the humidity. After a couple of days, the devil checked in on his latest arrival to see if he was suffering adequately. The devil was aghast as the guy from Arizona was happily swinging his hammer and whistling a happy tune. The devil walked up to him and said, "I don't understand this. I've turned the heat way up. It's humid. You're crushing rocks. Why are you so happy?" The guy from Arizona, with a big smile, looked at the devil and replied, "This is great. It reminds me of August in Arizona. Hot, humid, a good place to work. It reminds me of home. This is fantastic." The devil, extremely perplexed, walked away to ponder the remarks of this guy from Arizona. Then he decided to drop the temperature, send down a driving rain and torrential wind. Soon, hell was a wet, muddy mess. Slogging through in mud up to his knees, the guy from Arizona was happily pushing a wheelbarrow full of crushed rock. Again, the devil asked how he could be happy in such conditions. The guy from Arizona replied, "Oh, this is great. Just like April in Arizona. It reminds me of working out in the yard with spring planting. I love it." The devil was now completely baffled, but more determined to make the guy from Arizona suffer than ever. He made the temperature plummet. Suddenly, hell was blanketed with snow and ice. Well, the devil was confident this would surely make the guy from Arizona unhappy. He was aghast at what he saw. The guy from Arizona was dancing, singing, and twirling his sledgehammer as he cavorted in glee. "How can you be so happy? Don't you know it's 40 below zero?" screamed the devil. Jumping up and down, the Arizonan threw a snowball at the devil, yelling, "Hell's frozen over! Hell's frozen over! This can only mean the Cincinnati Bengals won the Super Bowl." It took me a while to get there, but isn't that great? I thought this joke was appropriate since next week is Super Bowl Sunday. Plus, I wanted you to laugh. Perhaps only objective one was met, but at least I got a guffaw from a lot of you. Here's our premise for today's work with light and laughter. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Our ability to laugh in the midst of challenging circumstances and have a light touch on life are indicators of how much we are living into and from this love. And the plan for today is to shine light and laughter in places that could use a big dose of God's love. There's a line from a song written by Leonard Cohen, and it says, "Ring the bells that still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." I would make one slight but significant adjustment to those lyrics by writing them, and that adjustment will be reflected in a story. This speaks to the meaning of those lyrics and the power of light, lightness, and laughter, as told by Heather Martin. It's a story of a young man who had cancer in his leg, and ultimately the only thing to be done to save his life was to amputate his leg. This was extremely difficult for him to handle. He was young, fit, athletic, now with only one leg. He went through a deep, dark night of the soul, but while he was in the physical rehab facility, they also offered him emotional rehab, and one thing that helped him was art therapy. On the drawing he created early in his therapy, one was of a flower vase with a great crack in it. That was how he saw himself. Flawed, damaged, cracked, no good to anyone, no use anymore. Do you know anyone who has ever felt that way? You may not have lost a limb, but you may have felt flawed, damaged, cracked, no good to anyone, no use at all. That's how this young man felt. But he persevered in his physical and emotional healing and made great strides in both. Years after his healings, he returned to the place where he recovered, going there as a compassionate friend to help and support those who were going through what he had gone through. He was drawn into the room of a young woman who also had had cancer. And to save her life, she had had a double mastectomy. When he went into her room, her face was turned to the wall, and even without a word or gesture from her, he could feel the heaviness and despair coming from this young woman. There was no acknowledgement that she heard anyone enter her room, although surely she did. He spoke to her, tried to connect with her, but she was not available. She wouldn't talk, wouldn't respond in any way to him. She just laid there with her face turned toward the wall. Suddenly, he had an idea and decided to take a risk. He turned on the radio in her room, turned up the volume, took off his prosthetic leg, stood on one foot, and started to dance. She slowly turned to him to see what in the world was going on, eyed him suspiciously for a few moments, and then said, "Well, I suppose if you can dance, then I can sing." And that she did, which was the beginning of her road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. And of course, you know where this story goes. It goes down the aisle to the altar where they were married sometime later. And that's a sweet end to the story, but it's not the real point of it. The real point is that on the same day as his visit to his future wife, he also visited the therapist who had helped him through his dark night of the soul, and he looked through some drawings he had left behind. Among them, he saw the one with the cracked vase, the one that symbolizes his brokenness and uselessness. In that moment, he realized that the drawing was incomplete. So he grabbed a yellow marker and started to draw bright streaks of light coming through the crack, because he saw clearly that without the crack, he never would have become the man he was that day. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light comes in. My revision to that quote would be, that's how the light goes out. And when we realize there is the light inside in the first place, planted there in everyone by the love of the divine, that is when we can lighten up about life. When we can let go of having to have perfect offerings and rather know that we are perfect in God's love, then we can bring light, lightness, and laughter to our world. Modern fiction writer Jodi Picoult once said, "There's always going to be bad stuff out there, but here's the amazing thing. Light trumps darkness every time." You can stick a candle into the dark, but you can't stick the dark into the candle. Have you ever been in a place where it's very, very dark and you light one candle, one little candle, and it brings light to an entire dark room? The same is true with one thought of God's love. It is like a candle in a dark place in our lives. One thought of God's love can bring light and lightness to a circumstance we are troubled by. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our troubled selves, causing them to relax and remember the pattern of perfection that lives at their core. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our energetic vibration, causing us to attract rather than repel the good thing that life has to offer us. Whenever we are experiencing any dark at all, we can light a candle in our lives with one thought of God's love. Our teacher, Jesus, said, "Ye are the light of the world." Do you believe this? If you are the light, are you not the light, full and complete and bright right here and now, exactly as you are, even if there is a perceived crack in it? In his book, Homesick for Heaven, Walter Starkey shared thoughts from Joel Goldsmith and wrote on page 10, "I am the light of the world, and ever will be. And if you accept this teaching, you will shine as the noonday sun in which there is no darkness at all. I am the light, will not permit questions of why or where or wherefore. It accepts itself as the full radiance of the risen sun, the full radiance of the risen sun. I am the light. Seeks not for light, health, wealth, success, progress, but knows that which I am seeking, I am." Sing within yourself. Morning, noon, and night, I am the light, the truth, the light, the life. Let a song of joy and grateful recognition surge through your being, and know that the divine being is your only being. Let me say that again. The divine being is your only being. This being is all. Inclusive, life, love, substance, law, and reality. Ye are the light of the world. As you rest in this consciousness, you will no longer find it necessary to overcome evil, destroy error, battle mortal mind. In and as the light, the darkness vanishes. In and as the light, the darkness vanishes. In a few moments, we're going to bring some of that light to a place of darkness. But before that, a little bit more on God's love in the form of a lightning bug. Yes, you heard correctly. Lightning bugs. Here's the story of lightning bugs. What is the deal with lightning bugs? Here is this rather ordinary-looking flying insect, but wait. It has a glow-in-the-dark rear end. What was God thinking? Science surely has all kinds of explanations about how this fluorescent fanny is useful for mating and other stuff, but what if when God was creating all the animals and everything around us, he came up with the idea of the lightning bug simply because he knew we would love it. We know that God loves us enough to create all the things we need to survive, but could it be that he loves us so much he created some things just for us to enjoy? Perhaps lightning bugs have a purpose after all. They are a reminder of a creative God who loves us so much he'd even light up the rear end of a bug just to see us smile. From that smiling place to a meditation to bring God's love into a place of darkness in our lives, in the life of someone we know, love, or in our world. Bring the image of a lightning bug to the situation and simply smile and let the light be brought to the darkness. And then remember this note from the universe, otherwise known as a message from God to you. No matter what your faith is or is not, no matter where in the world you are, these words, I am with you. I want you to know them, even as you hear them. I'm with you. Behind the eyes of every child and in the melody of every song, I'm the glimmer in the ice crystals, the rays in the sun and the stars at night. And with each smile, you see every hug you receive and every laugh you hear. I'll be there, reaching out through another with blessing and with good wishes. And all of this because I love you, because I've always loved you, and because I always will. And because this has been true, there will be true, they will be true every day of your life, with every step you take, with every sound you make. His voice is heard, and so it is. Live with that love in your life and let it be, and so it is. Amen.